Today, I had 4 pieces of watermelon on my plate. Sweet and refreshing, I ate 1 piece, and as usual, I was about to throw away the pulp. But then I suddenly thought, why not try to do something with this pulp? And that's when the idea of making syrup from watermelon pulp was born. I gathered about 1.5 kilograms of watermelon rind and started working. Every time people eat watermelon, the part they like the most is the sweet red flesh. The white flesh, lying quietly between the green skin and the red flesh, is often thrown away. It looks useless, but did you know that white flesh contains a lot of water, has a light taste, and can be transformed into a delicious, unique syrup? First, peel off the green skin, keeping only the sweet white part. Where are you from? Leave a comment and let me know. I'm happy to meet people from all over the world. Then, slice it lengthwise, then cut it into small squares. Just looking at it makes me feel comfortable. The size doesn't need to be too uniform, just enough to fit in my mouth and absorb the syrup easily. At this point, looking at the bowl of melon pulp, I no longer see it as a waste part, but as an ingredient for a refreshing syrup that is perfect for summer. After slicing, we pour all the melon pulp into a basin. Add 2 tablespoons of baking soda. Add enough water to cover the pulp. Then, use a spoon to stir the baking soda into the water. Many people wonder why baking soda is used. Actually, it has 3 great uses. First, it helps clean the melon pulp more thoroughly, removing dirt or remaining pesticide residue. Second, baking soda has the ability to soften it slightly, but still keeps the pulp slightly crispy when cooked. And finally, it helps remove the natural pungent smell of the melon rind. Thanks to that, the syrup will have a fresher taste, without being too bitter. Just soak for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then use a filter to separate the solids and liquid. Now drain the melon pulp. Now onto the boiling part. Put the water in the pot. Cover and bring to a boil. When the water starts to bubble, I add the melon pulp and boil it briefly. Not too long, just a few minutes is enough, then pour off the water and leave the pulp in the pot. Put the melon pulp in a bowl. Now it's time to start making the syrup, the most interesting and fragrant part of the whole process. I prepare a small pot, add about 300 grams of white sugar. Depending on how sweet you like it, you can adjust the amount of sugar accordingly. Then, I add about 300 milliliters of filtered water. Stir gently so that the sugar begins to dissolve evenly in the water. When the sugar water begins to boil gently and thicken, I add a few cloves, just a little but enough to create a warm, slightly spicy and very characteristic aroma. Cloves not only give the syrup an attractive aroma, but also bring a pleasant feeling, balancing the sweetness of the sugar. When the sugar water has a slightly thick consistency, I add the pre-boiled melon pulp to the pot. Stir well so that the pulp absorbs the syrup. I reduce the heat to low and cover the lid to continue cooking slowly for about 15 to 20 minutes. Meanwhile, the water begins to dry up. The melon flesh turns clear and absorbs a sweet flavor. The whole kitchen now smells of melon, the smell of slightly burnt sugar, very pleasant. I stir constantly until the mixture thickens. The syrup is light and sticky, clinging to the pulp. Then I know it's done. When the syrup has thickened, I add a few drops of lemon juice. Just a little bit, but enough to balance the sweetness, soften the harsh feeling of the sugar, and bring a fresh aroma to the syrup. Lemon also helps to keep the color and preserve the syrup longer, a small but very valuable tip. I gently stir one last time so that the lemon juice blends into the mixture. At this point, the syrup is fragrant, thick, and clear. Each piece of melon pulp seems to be covered in a layer of shimmering honey. Let it cool down and scoop the melon pulp syrup into a clean glass jar. Cover tightly and store in the refrigerator. This syrup will keep for about 1 to 2 weeks, and every time you take it out, it's like opening a summer jar. So, from the pieces of melon pulp that I thought were discarded, I created a jar of fragrant, sweet, and surprising syrup. Every time I open the jar, the aroma of cloves, the fresh taste of lemon, and the light crunch of the melon pulp reminds me of that afternoon. The afternoon when I decided not to waste anything. I hope you will also try making this syrup once to see that the kitchen is not only a place to cook, but also a place where we turn simple things into small joys every day. If you like it, don't forget to like, leave a comment to share your feelings, and subscribe to the channel to discover more great tips with me. See you in the next video.